Hello fellow wood turners, Mike Peace Woodturning. Welcome back to my shop for another Friday turning project. I've got a good one for you today. I think you'll enjoy it. I'm going to turn a lamp. My wife and I went on a cruise in December, January, and my mother-in-law been living with us for about 5 years. We put her in assisted living and respite care for a couple of weeks while we were gone, and she enjoyed it so much. She says, "I want to move into that place because I got more people to talk to all the time." So I told her I'd make her a lamp. Well, I got to thinking about it, and the challenge I found was getting large pieces of dried wood. You can use poplar, ash, maple, whatever, but it's best if you can get it kiln dried, and you can always glue it up. And turns out I helped a widow, wood-turning widow, deal with her husband's tools, and she said, "Here, take these pieces of wood." So she gave me some wonderful pieces of 3-inch mahogany. They're just perfect. So I took these over to a friend's shop and had the two surfaces jointed so I could glue it together with a minimal glue line showing. It's a challenge to come up with very large blocks of wood like this piece, and even this piece is not long enough, even though it's big enough around. But if you did have a piece like that, you could certainly drill it on the lathe, but the challenge is you're going to have to drill it from both sides, because just generally this is not going to be deep enough for you, and getting it to meet in the middle and not follow the grain sometimes can be a challenge. Now in this case though, where I'm using a glue up, all I did was, this is the rod I've got to make room for that the wire is going to go through. I simply cut a dado channel in both halves, so I'm going to glue it up like that, and of course this rod will fit. Here's the cheap Harbor Freight dado set I've had for years. I don't use it very often, but it does come in handy occasionally, like this project, and it may not be the highest quality, but it's good enough to get me through. The base I'm going to cut out of a circle out of a larger piece on the bandsaw. So here's the glue up. I'm not an expert woodworker, flat worker, because I got diverted to being a wood turner before I got too far into it. But one thing I did learn, you can't have too many clamps. Okay, now I'm going to drill a hole for the woodworm screw, appropriate to my job. Now that I've got this mounted tightly on the screw chuck, I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to face off the bottom, so I'll have where the lamp base will sit flat. Then I'm going to true up the roundness, and then I'm going to put a little bit of a recess in here for a weight. So I'm using a 1/2-inch bowl gouge with a flute, the milled part, facing away from me. Now I want to note, I'm not pulling this back and forth with my hands, I'm just slowly moving my whole body with this locked in on my side. Okay, so now we got it flat, and I'm going to change the position of the tool rest to sideways. Now the flute, on a 12 o'clock clock face where the flute is straight up is 12, I'm going to move this maybe 10 o'clock. And I've got a nice clean cut. Okay. Next, I'm going to put that little recess in the bottom I was talking about, because I've got to have enough room here for a cord to come in and join, but I've also got a weight in here that I'm going to recess, and we're going to use this recess actually to hold this with a four-jaw scroll chuck when we reverse it. And one of the first steps in making a lamp is coming up with a design, and I like to use Pinterest because you get a number of great picture ideas, and you can save them to your own little Pinterest board for reference. Then you need to take that design and scale it and come up with a storyboard with your critical dimensions and template. In this case for the base, and one for the body. So I'm looking at my template, and the first thing I need to do before I turn around to the other side is I need to go ahead and turn a hole for this threaded rod 2 inches thick. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. That's not going to endanger me hitting the woodworm screw or anything. So we're going to slow the lathe down a little bit. And I'm going to set this and just use the indexing on my quill. And we're done with that. So from the old lamp I'm using for parts, I have this cast iron weight to give it a little more stability, and that's going to be held on by this flat plate. And so by coincidence, this flat plate just happens to be a shade larger than the jaws of the chuck I'm going to use for reversing it. So that'll work out just perfectly. So let me take a pencil, and I'm just going to put this on here and draw that circle on there. Now I'm going to cut out this recess 1.5 inches deep, or 38 millimeters. So I'm going to go ahead and use a bowl gouge to do some of that, and then we'll come back in with a scraper. So this is cross grain, just like a bowl, just like we're hollowing it. We're going to go from the outside to the inside. Get the speed up a little bit more than we had for drilling. Now I'm going to use a square edge scraper. This is my homemade job. I had a video on this a while back. Piece of high-speed steel I bought off Amazon. So we're just going to see that mark. I'm going to just go straight in. This is not a negative rake, so I've got to point it down just a bit. I need to put just a little bit of a ledge here for the jaws to hold on to make just a bit of a dovetail. I'm going to use this little smaller tool and just angle it in just a tiny little bit. And that should give me plenty of strength for those jaws to sit against that in a dovetail configuration. Okay, now before I finally turn it around, I look at my storyboard and I have a little bit of chamfer here, so I'm going to go ahead and cut that chamfer now. And since it's like a bowl going from small to large, I'm going to cut in this direction. That's just to give it just a little bit of a shadow line. Now I think we're ready to turn this around. And I check to make sure I've got just a little bit of a chamfer here, so when the lamp sits, it'll sit on the outside. So now we're going to take this off the screw chuck and then reverse chuck it. And I'm putting on my Supernova 2 chuck with 4-inch jaws. Just going to press in the middle and make it snug. You don't have to put a death grip on it. Just make it snug. Okay. Now we start shaping the outside. Right at the top side. Okay, now that we got it reversed, I think I'm going to clean this side up just a little bit, and then we're going to drill a hole for the lamp body. Now I'm going to drill a hole a 1/2 inch deep using this large Forstner bit. The size is not really critical. You could make it 1 inch, but I think 2.5 gives it a lot more stability, and I have one that large, so that's what I'm going to use. Slowing the speed way down. Maybe 250. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little groove right here, a little feature, and go ahead and drill a hole for the cord. Then I'm going to size a couple of areas here and then start taking it down. Okay, stuff happens. So here's a mistake. I wasn't paying attention to which side was which. This is the top. This feature here is not going to be here. It's going to be at the bottom. The hole's going to be at the bottom, so I'm going to wind up probably having a small hole here to plug, but I've got to redo this on the other end. So I had my storyboard pointing toward the wrong side. So let's try that one more time. And this time I think I'll drill the hole before I do the finishing on that detail, so I'll clean up any tear out. And I think I'm going to put the hole in line here because chances are this is going to be toward the back of the lamp anyway, so that way nobody will notice the plug. Ooh, I need to think about this. That's getting awfully close to the chuck. I think I'm going to have to drill this, reverse it to drill this. Okay, so I put on my normal 50mm jaws. It's a dovetail, and this is, as you recall, drilled flat in, but it'll hold it certainly well enough to drill that hole in it. So I'm just going to go ahead and expand these jaws until it's slightly snug, and that'll do just fine. I'll drill the hole, and then we'll go back to where we were. Now we'll go back to where we were. This is going to be the top of the base. So I'm looking for a 4.25 inches diameter here. Might be easier to use calipers. Let me go ahead and set that. Okay, see that inner mark. I'm going to go ahead and take it down here at an angle. Get that profile. So I'm going to bring this down. Use a detail gouge to round this over. Bead. The bowl gouge, get a little bit of a shear scrape here, bring this around. And back on this side. Okay, what I'm going to decide to do is take this storyboard and cut this profile just a little bit with a pair of scissors and use that to kind of help me gauge where I am on this thing. Now that I'm close to the profile I'm looking for, I'm just going to use a scraper to get that nice smooth continuous form that I can't quite pick up with a bowl gouge. I could feel this here with my fingers. I got a little bump here, got a little bump there. So I use my negative rate scraper and just get rid of some of these bumps. pretty close to that lamp base I envisioned. Okay, here I am repairing that little false drill hole. I just turned a little mahogany dowel, put a little glue on it, and I'm just going to tap that in with a mallet. And we're going to cut it off with a flush cut saw, and then we'll cut it smooth on the lathe. That's close enough. And we'll put that back on the lathe and sand it, and cut it and sand it. And when we sand it, it should be seamless, especially from the back of the lamp. When you turn stuff like me, it's really handy to have a box full of spindle cutoffs or remaining scraps left over from spindle projects, because you use them so often for glue blocks and such. I'm going to take this one right here, and we're going to use this to make a driver for this lamp base. So here's the end in the base blank square, where we're going to have to figure out some kind of way to drive it. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to take that scrap I picked up, and we're going to make a little drive center out of it. I think you can see the challenge that even if we used a center like this, we wouldn't get enough friction or bite on the end to drive it. We use one like this, and we don't have a way of centering it, since the center is smaller than the hole. So we're going to just cut a small driver here that'll fit in that square, and then the pressure along here will give it enough friction to drive it. And that's the dimension we need, so we need to come down just a bit further just to test it. Yep, that's nice and snug and will center. So, and it'll drive it on the outside edge. So now we're going to put a cone center on the other side, which will center on the tailstock side. So let's get this bad boy up here. Bring up the tailstock. Put a little bit of pressure on it. And I think that's going to work just fine. Okay, we're going to start roughing this at a little slower speed than normal. Anchor the tool, slide the bevel, lift the handle to the cut. I can speed it up a little bit now that I got most of the corners knocked off. Okay, it's a massive hunk of wood. And as I get it roughed down with that spindle gouge, I can switch to my large Allen Lacer skew and take a finishing pass. Anchor the tool, slide the bevel, lift till it cuts. Okay, now we got a lamp base we can work with. Let's get our storyboard. This is one of the largest spindles I've worked on. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this feature right here and take this down to the maximum size of that feature. Then I can deal with this one. I'm going to take it down with this skew with a peeling cut, just a little bit at a time. Yeah, this is the thickest part of the spindle. Maybe one more line over. About halfway in between those. make any mistakes on this one or I'll lose a lot of wood, so. Okay. Okay, so now I can take the next feature down. Go ahead and mark it. So that's going to, the edge of the feature is going to be right here. I can bring it down to about there. It's a bulk.